There's a version of you that exists only in your mind, and that version knows exactly what to do. That version wakes up clear-headed and motivated, sits down without hesitation, and begins. No resistance, no fear, no spinning thoughts or heavy limbs or tightness in the chest. Just action, smooth and simple, the way it seems to be for everyone else. But then there's the real you, the one sitting here right now. And for you, starting feels like trying to push through an invisible wall. You know what you need to do. You've known for hours, maybe days, maybe weeks. But when you try to move toward it, when you even think about beginning, something stops you. Your body feels heavy. Your thoughts speed up. Your chest gets tight. 1,000 what-ifs flood your mind all at once. What if I do it wrong? What if I can't finish? What if I start and realize I'm not good enough? What if this confirms what I've always feared about myself? And so you sit there frozen, caught between the desperate want to begin and the overwhelming feeling that you can't, that something inside you is broken, that everyone else has figured out how to just start and you're the only one still stuck at the beginning. If this is your experience, I need you to know something right now, before we go any further. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not failing at being human. What you're experiencing is a nervous system response, a protective mechanism that your brain uses when it perceives starting as dangerous. And once you understand why it's happening, you can start to work with it instead of against it. When you're anxious and you try to start something, your brain is doing something very specific. It's scanning for threat. The amygdala, that small almond-shaped part deep in your brain responsible for detecting danger, doesn't distinguish well between physical threats and psychological ones. To your amygdala, the uncertainty of beginning something new, the possibility of failure, the fear of judgment, these all register as danger. And when your brain detects danger, it activates your stress response. Your body floods with cortisol and adrenaline. Your heart rate increases. Your muscles tense. And here's the crucial part, your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, initiating action. It goes partially offline. Your brain is prioritizing survival over executive function. It's saying, we don't have time to think carefully and plan and start projects. We need to react. We need to protect ourselves. And the way your brain protects you from the perceived threat of starting is by freezing you in place, by making it feel impossible to begin. Because if you don't start, you can't fail. And if you can't fail, you can't get hurt. It's trying to help you, but it's helping in a way that keeps you stuck. There's also something called executive dysfunction that happens when anxiety is high. And this is a huge piece of why starting feels so hard. Executive function is your brain's ability to organize, plan, initiate tasks, manage time, and regulate your attention. It's what allows you to break down a big task into steps, to decide what to do first, to actually begin. But executive function requires mental energy and cognitive bandwidth. And when you're anxious, when your nervous system is already running hot, that bandwidth is severely limited. It's like trying to run a complex program on a computer that's already using 90% of its processing power. Everything slows down. Everything feels harder. And starting, which requires you to organize your thoughts, make decisions, and overcome inertia, it becomes almost impossible. You're not choosing not to start. Your brain literally doesn't have the resources available to initiate the action. And on top of that, there's the weight of perfectionism, which is so often intertwined with anxiety. You don't just want to start, you want to start well, to do it right, to avoid mistakes, to meet some impossible standard that you've set for yourself or that you believe others have set for you. And so before you even begin, you're already worried about the end result, already scanning for all the ways it could go wrong, already feeling the pressure to be perfect. And that pressure is paralyzing. Then there's the emotional residue, the accumulated weight of all the times before when starting felt hard, when you tried and struggled, when you faced disappointment or criticism or failure. Your nervous system remembers those experiences. They're stored in your body as emotional memory. And when you approach a new beginning, those old feelings get activated. It's not just about this task right now. It's about every task that ever felt like too much, every time you felt not good enough, every moment of shame or frustration or defeat. Your body is carrying all of that. And it's saying, starting is dangerous. Starting leads to pain. Let's not do this. And there's also the discomfort of the unknown. When you haven't started yet, everything is uncertain. You don't know how long it will take, how hard it will be, whether you'll be able to do it, what you'll discover about yourself in the process. And for anxious brains, uncertainty feels like danger. Anxious brains want control, want predictability, want to know exactly what's going to happen so they can prepare for it. But starting means stepping into the unknown, and that triggers even more anxiety, which makes starting even harder. It's a loop, and it feels endless. And the longer you stay stuck in it, the more shame builds up. You start to believe that there's something uniquely wrong with you, that you're the only one who struggles this way, that you should be able to just do it like everyone else seems to. But here's what I want you to understand. The struggle to start is not a character flaw. It's not evidence that you're inadequate or incapable. It's your nervous system doing what nervous systems do when they're overwhelmed, when they're carrying too much, when they're trying to protect you from pain. And the way out is not to push harder, not to force yourself, not to shame yourself into action. The way out is to soften, to slow down, to meet yourself exactly where you are with compassion, and to work with your nervous system instead of against it. So let's do that together right now. Let's pause. Let's create some space between you and the pressure to start. And let's see if we can find a different way forward. First, just notice what's happening in your body. You don't have to change anything yet. Just bring your awareness to the physical sensations. Where are you holding tension? Is it in your shoulders, pulled up tight toward your ears? Is it in your jaw, clenched without you realizing it? Is it in your chest, heavy and constricted? Is it in your stomach, knotted and uncomfortable? Just notice. And as you notice, see if you can bring a sense of gentleness to those sensations. You're not trying to make them go away. You're just acknowledging them, saying silently to yourself, "Oh, this is what fear feels like in my body. This is what overwhelm feels like. This is my nervous system trying to protect me." And in that acknowledgement, in that simple act of noticing without judgment, something begins to shift. You're no longer completely identified with the anxiety. You're the observer of it, and that creates just a tiny bit of space, just enough room to breathe. Now let's work with your breath, because your breath is the most direct way to communicate with your nervous system. When you're frozen, when you're stuck in that pre-starting anxiety, your breathing is almost always shallow and held high in your chest, which keeps your body in a state of activation. But you can change that. You can use your breath to signal safety. So breathe in slowly through your nose, counting to 4. Let the air fill your belly first, feeling it expand. Hold that breath gently for a count of 4, and then exhale slowly, even more slowly than you inhaled, for a count of 6 or 7 or 8. Let the exhale be soft and complete, like you're releasing something you've been holding on to. That long exhale is key. It activates your parasympathetic nervous system, the system responsible for rest and calm. It tells your brain, we're safe, we don't need to be on high alert, we can come down. Do this several times. Breathe in, hold, breathe out long and slow. And with each breath, imagine the wall between you and starting becoming just a little bit more transparent, a little bit less solid. As you breathe, start to ground yourself in the present moment, because so much of the anxiety about starting is about the future, about all the things that might go wrong, all the ways you might fail. But right now, in this exact second, you're okay. Nothing is being asked of you right this instant except to be here. So let's anchor in the now. Notice where you're sitting or standing. Feel the surface beneath you. Feel the weight of your body being held and supported. Look around and name 3 things you can see. Just simple things. A corner, a shadow, the edge of a book. Now notice 2 things you can physically feel. The texture of your clothing, the temperature of the air. Now, 1 thing you can hear. Maybe it's your own breath. Maybe it's a distant sound or silence. This grounding exercise works because it pulls you out of your anxious thoughts and into your senses. And your senses only work right now. You can't see or hear or feel the future. You can only sense this moment, and in this moment, you're safe. The task you're afraid to start exists somewhere in the future, but you don't have to go there yet. You just have to be here. From this slightly calmer, more grounded place, I want you to do something that might feel counterintuitive. I want you to give yourself permission not to start. I want you to release, just for a moment, the pressure to begin, the expectation that you should be doing something right now. Just let it go. You don't have to start. You don't have to be productive. You don't have to prove anything. You can just be here, breathing, existing. And notice what happens when you give yourself that permission. Often, when we release the pressure, when we stop forcing, when we let ourselves just be, the nervous system relaxes. The freeze starts to thaw. Because the freeze isn't just about the task itself. It's about the pressure, the internal demand, the feeling that you have to start right now or you're failing. And when you remove that demand, when you say to yourself, I don't have to do anything, something loosens. You remember that you have a choice. You remember that starting is something you can do, not something you're forced to do. And that shift from obligation to choice changes everything. Now, from this place of choice, ask yourself a different kind of question. Not what do I need to accomplish, not how am I going to do this whole thing, but what is the absolute smallest action I could take that would move me even 1 millimeter closer to beginning? Not a big action, not even a significant action. The tiniest, most gentle, most laughably small action. Maybe it's opening your laptop. Not working, just opening it. Maybe it's picking up a pen. Maybe it's standing up and walking to your desk. Maybe it's writing one word, any word, just to break the blankness. Maybe it's taking out the materials you need, just placing them in front of you. The action has to be so small that when you think about it, you don't feel the resistance rising up. You feel something else, something like, okay, I think I can do that. That's the threshold we're looking for. That's the edge of what's possible right now. And then, without overthinking it, without giving your mind time to talk you out of it, you do that one tiny thing. You just do it. And something happens when you do. Something chemical and neurological. Your brain releases a small amount of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and motivation. That tiny hit of dopamine shifts your state. It creates a small sense of accomplishment, a quiet feeling of, oh, I did something. And from that place, the next small action becomes visible. Maybe you opened your laptop, and now you can open the document. Maybe you picked up the pen, and now you can write one sentence. You're not trying to do everything. You're not trying to finish. You're just following the breadcrumbs of what feels possible, one small step leading naturally to another. And as you do this, you're teaching your brain something crucial. You're teaching it that starting doesn't have to be perfect or complete or overwhelming. You're teaching it that you can begin gently, slowly, imperfectly. And that beginning this way is not only okay, it's actually the most sustainable way to work with an anxious nervous system. Let's talk about what happens underneath the difficulty of starting, because it's not really about the task most of the time. It's about what starting represents. It's about the fear that if you try and you don't do well, if you make mistakes, if you can't finish, then you're proving something terrible about yourself. That you're not capable. That you're not smart enough, or talented enough, or disciplined enough. That you're a failure. And that fear is so big, so all-encompassing, that your nervous system would rather keep you frozen than let you face it. But here's the truth that your anxiety doesn't want you to know. Starting imperfectly, starting messily, starting and not finishing, starting and making mistakes, none of those things say anything about your worth. Your worth is not conditional on your performance. You are valuable because you exist, because you're human, not because of what you produce or achieve. And when you can start to internalize that, when you can separate your sense of self from your output, starting becomes less terrifying because the stakes aren't so impossibly high anymore. There's also a grief that comes with the difficulty of starting, and it's important to acknowledge it. There's grief for all the time you've lost to being frozen, for all the things you wanted to do but couldn't, for the person you thought you'd be by now who seems to just move through life with ease while you're still struggling with the basics. That grief is real, it's valid, and it deserves space. You don't have to push it away or minimize it. You can let yourself feel sad about how hard this has been, about how much energy you've spent just trying to begin. And alongside that sadness, you can hold compassion. You can say to yourself, this has been really hard, and I've been doing the best I can, and that's enough. I don't have to have it figured out. I just have to keep trying, keep showing up, keep taking the smallest steps I can manage. Here's what I want you to know about the kind of courage it takes to start when you're anxious. It's not the loud, confident, fearless kind of courage. It's the quiet kind. The kind that says, I'm terrified and I'm going to try anyway. I don't know if I can do this, but I'm going to take one small step and see. I might fail, I might struggle, I might not be perfect, but I'm going to begin. That's real courage. That's the courage that anxious people have in abundance, but rarely recognize in themselves. Every time you've started something despite the fear, despite the freeze, despite the voice in your head saying you can't, you've been brave. Every time you've pushed through the resistance, even just a little bit, even just to take the tiniest action, you've been strong. You might not see it that way. You might focus on how long it took you, or how hard it was, or how imperfect the result was. But I see it. And it matters. It all matters. So if you're sitting here right now, feeling the weight of something you need to start but can't seem to begin, I want you to try something. Take a deep breath. Put your hand on your heart and feel it beating. Remind yourself that you're here, you're alive, you're doing your best. And then say to yourself, with as much gentleness as you can find, starting is hard for me right now. And that's okay. My nervous system is trying to protect me. And I can thank it and also choose to try. I don't have to do everything. I don't have to be perfect. I just have to take one small, gentle step. Just one. And I can do that. Not because I'm not afraid, but because I'm brave enough to try anyway. And then you do the smallest thing. You open the laptop or pick up the pen or stand up or write one word. And you notice how it feels to move, even just a little. And you let that movement carry you into the next small thing, and the next. You're not starting the way you think you're supposed to. You're starting the way that works for you, the way that honors your nervous system, the way that's gentle and slow and imperfect and real. And that's not just okay. That's beautiful. That's exactly what starting looks like when you're anxious. One breath, one small step, one moment of courage at a time.